Okay, what I want to do next is grab this rail here. I want to change the style. I don't need all the balusters. I do need a handrail on the left side. I don't need the top rail either. So what I see on my screen I don't need. I actually need pieces that are not currently visible. The very first thing I want to do is make a unique type out of this rail. So I'm going to select it, edit type, and duplicate. And this is the one that's going to have just the handrail, no balusters. So I'm going to say handrail existing, the book calls it existing handrail, no balusters. Okay, so no balusters on this one. And that's going to make a unique case out of that particular item. Okay, so that's the first thing. The next thing I need to do is to assign a type to the handrail that's going to exist over here on this wall. And I just need to open that up and say, yes, I'm going to just take, there's only one type available to me right now, that's fine. I can click OK, and I say, see, it has that type. Once I have the type, then I can tell it which position it's in. Notice down here I didn't assign a type, and so the position is grayed out. But here, because I have a type, I can assign this one to the left position. Okay, let's go ahead and look at what that does when I click OK. And I can see there is now a rail that is associated with a handrail that's associated with that one, as well as a top rail. Now they're currently at the same height. It's not really a problem. There's another thing I see here is that the offset has changed slightly. This rail is poking out of the wall a little further than it was originally before I fixed my railing in the last video. So I'm going to take this and make sure that this offset from path says 0, and you guys can do the same. When I apply that, it sort of sinks it back into the wall a little bit further. That's going to come back and haunt us if we don't do that. So go ahead and make sure that offset is set to 0. I'll show you what it does here later. Now the next thing I want to do is I do not need the balusters. I do not need that top rail. I only need this circular handrail. And I want the handrail to come in here and dive into the wall so that it doesn't have a sharp point on the end of it. And I'll do that at the top and the bottom. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and select this again and edit the type a little bit more. I'm going to say I do not need a top rail. When I apply that, the top rail goes away, and the balusters are also going to partially disappear. I need to go into the baluster placement in order to get rid of the balusters. So I need to say none here. No balusters. And that's the common oops, none. It says none here. And then down at the bottom I also have posts. So these are at the corners and at the end of the bottom and the top. So I'm going to change these to no also, or none also, and then we shouldn't see any more balusters. And we're going to go ahead and click apply and OK, and then apply that. And then see, now there are no balusters left. So the last thing to do here is to make this return into the wall. And to make it do the little return, that is a property of the handrail type. And so right now I don't have the handrail type selected. I have the whole railing selected, and I can see that. If I click here, I can open the handrail up, and you'll notice there's two type dialog boxes, one for the whole system, or one for the whole house handrail, and another one that's just the handrail inside there. It's a little confusing, but what we have here is a nested element, one inside the other. And I'll show you that again here in just a moment. But what we need to do is have this return into the wall. So at the extensions for the top and the bottom, we're going to say there's an extension that is going to be to the wall. And I'll do that for the top and for the bottom. And when I click apply, I'm not going to see any changes because it's not long enough. So we need to say that there's a length, an extension length. And I'm going to put in here 6 inches. And I'm going to put down here 6 inches also. And so that will allow my terminations to come into the wall. So I apply that, and I can see they do. Now, they function but you'll notice right here it says miter. That's why we're getting these funny little corners. And so what I'm going to do to make it a little prettier is I'm going to say give it a fillet, and the fillet radius needs to be larger than the railing itself. So because the railing is 1.5 inches, I'm going to make my fillet radius 2 inches. And when I apply that, I can see that looks a little smoother, it looks a little nicer as it goes into the wall. Should be doing the same thing at the top, so let's go ahead and take a look. Get up there on the top and I can see it functions. I also want to make sure that this is actually touching the wall, that it's not floating out in space. And so down here I can see that that is right up against the wall. And what I was talking about before, that offset path, if I select this, and notice I've got the whole handrail, no baluster selected. This is that offset from path that we fussed over a minute ago. If I change this, it will actually pull it away from the wall, right? And I don't want to do that. That gives me a gap where the handrail is just floating there. And so to avoid that gap, I need to make sure this says 0. Okay. Now you'll notice that maybe you'll notice, or one thing you should notice is that what I'm working with here is the entire rail system. So this is the one we made a copy of. Here's the old one here, still being used on this side. You can see it's also offset from path for 1. We'll deal with that one here in a minute. But what I wanted to show you is that you could both select this, click Edit Path, and then open up the handrails specifically, and that's what we get with this little button. That's why we're getting these double type properties, one for the whole system, one just for the handrail. I can get to this same window a different way, and get to that same window by hovering over this railing and tabbing so that I can select just a piece at a time. Okay. Now the challenge here is that this piece here is called a handrail. This piece here is called a top rail, and you can see it says top rail. So I cannot access the handrails if they're not something I can select on screen, and I cannot access the top rail without getting to the point on screen. So if right now I've got a top rail selected, if I hit Edit Type, you'll see I get top rail selections. This is all for the top rail, and I get how the top rail is put together. Extension at the top, terminations, etc. Okay, but if I select this one, I did not tab, I just selected it, I'm getting the entire rail system, and then here I can go into the handrail by going in the second level right here. I can get to those handrails on both of these. I can get to the top rail on both of these. It's just a matter of how I click and where I'm digging into the system. You just have to be real careful about it. The book makes a point of reading those tooltips. So if I hover over this, I can see that says that I've got the thing, the whole system. If I tab once, then it says I've got just the handrail. If I hover over this, it got the whole system. If I tab once, if I hover over the top and tab once, now I've got just the top rail. See if that tooltip will come up. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so hopefully you can watch that and sort of get a handle on how to make those corrections.